Brought to you by Hug House Productions.
Hi, hello, listener of Never Morphed. If you like this show, I am convinced you are going to love The Newest Olympian by Mike Schubert. Why am I so certain? Because that's one of the shows that inspired this show. Real ones who listen to the credits already know. Each week, Mike dives into the Percy Jackson series, which I love, joined by guests who are longtime fans of the Rick Riordan series. If you haven't read these books yet, this is the perfect way to get started and read along with Mike. They're so good. And like Animorphs, they're kids' books that touch on way more serious topics than you might expect. And they're about worldwide mythologies, starting with Greek and Roman. I know you gays love mythology. If you have already read the books and know how good they are, you'll love this series too. The dramatic irony, man. And if you know about the books from the Disney Plus series, Mike has done interviews and conversations with some of the cast of the show on The Newest Olympian too. Mike is a great host, a great editor, and obviously a huge inspiration for me. You can find The Newest Olympian in the show notes or wherever you get your podcasts. Go subscribe right now and enjoy. Welcome back to Never Morphed, the podcast in which I, Will Williams, read all the Animorphs books for the first time. This podcast is for big kids only, because of my horrid potty mouth and propensity for talking about the worst things on Earth. Kids, go read the books and let K.A. Applegate traumatize you instead. My guest this week is the wonderful Leigh Pfeffer, back again for the second book in the series. Leigh is, of course, one of the creators of History is Gay, and reminder that you can find some of my favorite episodes of that podcast in the show notes. But before we jump into the second book, I have some shit to set straight. Hi, I have been made aware that baby shampoo does not include numbing agents. That was a total urban legend that I definitely fell for. But I heard about this myth in conjunction with two very real things that happened around Johnson & Johnson baby stuff. So let's talk about Johnson & Johnson, an evil company. I fell down a research hole and I'm dragging you with me. In 2014, Johnson & Johnson changed the formula of their very popular No More Tears baby shampoo. The shampoo originally used a formula that included a chemical called quaternium-15, which sounds stupid and made up. The chemical would eventually decay into the release of formaldehyde, which the United States has classified as a carcinogen. However, Johnson & Johnson maintains that this amount of formaldehyde was less than if someone ate a single apple. This is how rumors of numbing agents resurfaced. However, shortly after, Johnson & Johnson came under fire for another one of its products, baby powder. In 2018, writers conducted an investigation on claims that Johnson & Johnson baby powder was causing mesothelioma, a cancer specifically caused by exposure to asbestos. The investigation found that asbestos had been found in the baby powder's main ingredient, talcum powder, or talc, in several tests across decades, spanning back to 1971. The investigation is super long and really interesting if there's something fucked up with you like there is me. Johnson & Johnson has been hit with what Fortune counts to be over 11,000 lawsuits about this baby powder, including cases saying that it led not just to mesothelioma, but ovarian cancer as well. As of January 23, 2024, yeah, literally like a few months ago as of recording this, Johnson & Johnson settled for $700 million across 42 states. Lawsuits by individual victims seem less successful. Most recently, as in like literally just before I wrote and recorded this today on March 6, 2024, one of these lawsuits was declared a mistrial after juries could not come to a consensus. So that blows. Okay, that's enough info dumping about something that was only tangentially related to literally anything in this podcast. All of my sources will, of course, be in the show notes. Now, on to discussing fictional horrors instead of real ones. Okay, Leigh, we are back to discuss book 2, and this one's a fucking doozy. I knew that these books got really sad, and I knew that I was going to relate super hard to some characters. I did not expect to relate super hard to, like, a random side character. Like, I don't know if this girl, if we're ever going to see her in another book. I hope we will. But, Melissa, you're a real one.
Yeah,
so,
and surprise new POV.
Yes.
jumping right in, this is a Rachel POV, whereas last time was Jake. I fucking love her. My knowledge of her before these books was that I was pretty sure she was the one who like was totally chill with war crimes, and I'm like even more sure of that now. I love her though. I love her. This book was really good.
Right? You're primed to be like, okay, whatever, popular, tall, blonde, skinny, pretty girl, whatever. Right. And then you're like, oh, Rachel, baby.
Rachel, baby.
All of these characters have so much depth.
Like beta testing for Annabeth Chase.
Mm-hmm.
You see it, right? You see it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go into the actual plot of this book, just some little preliminary intro information. This was also published in June 1996. No exact publication date still, which is really fucking weird. It was not ghostwritten. Rachel's our POV character, 23 chapters. Tagline is, no one knows who they are.
Dun, 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 dun.
Which, like, great double meaning there and sad. Yeah, I mean, it was great. The cover is Rachel turning into a cat. I'm gonna assume this is Mr. Pfeffer, who we'll talk about in a bit. He's a badass.
He's a little shit.
He's a little shit. I have lots of cat thoughts.
Perfect cat. Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
So when we start off, Rachel, Jake, and Tobias, and I think the others as well, they're swooping around looking for this Yerk mothership. So they're not looking for any other Yerk pools right now. They're looking for a mothership. And my God, the description of them all in the air riding the tailwinds, like,
excuse me, thermals.
Thermals!
Listen, you are never, ever going to be able to look at birds and not think, thermals ever again.
No, I won't.
It has altered my brain chemistry.
Yeah, I'm straight up not a bird person. I just don't really care about a bird unless it's a vulture or a raven, because I love vultures and ravens because of course I do.
Absolutely. Top tier.
Yeah. But I like them more now.
yeah, seriously. Like
I get it.
The idea of riding around on the thermals is...
It sounds so nice.
It fundamentally alters you after these books. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I never really cared that much about flying. And then it's like, oh no, actually I do want to be a bird and fly and ride the thermals. It sounds really fun.
It sounds so fun. So as they're flying around as these boids, she is a bald eagle. They're like all taking these like badass forms. And then they start getting fucking shot at, which was crazy.
Idiot hick teens.
I was not prepared for that. Came out of very left field for me. And Rachel says, I can't believe this. I'm an endangered species. I'm a bald eagle. What's the matter with those creeps? So real, girl. Like, so true.
Does this book go into the other birds that all of them got? Or is that later? Do you know what birds they are?
Probably, but I don't remember.
So, yeah, we've got obviously Rachel's a bald eagle. Tobias is a hawk. Mm-hmm. Jake is a peregrine falcon.
Yes.
And Marco and Cassie are ospreys.
Rachel is swooping towards these guys, being like, fuck you, shooting at an endangered species, as is her right. And she steals the guy's
I support
gun
women's right to do violence.
Yes. So she takes the gun and the beer, and she drops the gun in the ocean. So this feeds my theories. I knew from book one that this was set on a coast. I keep flip-flopping between the West Coast and the East Coast, both of which I have lived on, more or less. I still have not decided in this book. I think I think that right now, currently, in my heart of hearts, I am leaning West Coast, but like, who's to say? But
Who's to
the
say?
ocean was present.
Yes. The ocean will return.
Oh no.
That sounds so ominous. There will be continued things around the ocean.
Well, as somebody who's very afraid of whales, and I do know that there is a whale at some point, at least some presence of whale.
Yeah, because I warned you the last episode.
That's right. So like,
I was like, oh, buddy, you're gonna struggle at some point.
Yeah, I'm not excited.
I mean, how do you feel about other like cetaceans? Yeah, so Rachel's like, fuck you, I'm gonna throw your stupid gun in the ocean.
Which rules. And then we get a lot of recap, which makes sense. And then she talks about how she like, there is so much in this book about Rachel's conflict with her inner identity and the way that she is perceived. And I feel that like to my core. That is actually a huge gender thing for me is I am AFAB. I don't have dysphoria. I'm very agender. People say that I present as very femme. In my head, I don't. I'm just wearing clothes and sometimes makeup, you know? Like, it does not have a gender to me at all. So I have this struggle where, like, I am never, ever, ever clocked as trans, which to some degree is a good thing in regards to safety.
Right.
Anyway, so I vibed with this really hard. She talks about how she is not pretty on purpose. Like, she just looks like that. Which is so real. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
She's like, whatever, this is just, I mean, I get a lot of comments and I people look at me and this is just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just hanging out. I was born like this. Sorry.
Yeah.
Marco is a huge misogynist. I
knew that you would struggle with Marco in this book.
This fucking guy.
It gets really punched up in Rachel POVs too, because they are absolute foils of each other. They love each other very much, but the way that like Marco and Jake rib each other is very different than the ways like Marco and Rachel rib each other.
Yes.
And I don't think it happens at all in this book, but very soon you will start to see a lot of references of Marco constantly calling Rachel Xena.
Oh,
which I love.
That's great.
Which is funny because, like, as an adult Xenite,
yes,
who like literally just got back from XenaCon, I like reread these books and I was like, "There's so much more Xena than I remember being in these books." Yeah, Marco, he's being a dumb teenage boy.
Yes, and a dumb teenage boy in the 90s. Like,
in the 90s.
He calls these girls skanks. It's the most 90s shit ever.
Right. It's very projecty. It's very projecty. I get different vibes from like Marco saying this kind of shit than Xander Harris saying this kinds of shit, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it is like, oh, well, I'm kind of cast as the like, you know, pretty boy wisecracker guy, and this is what everybody's expecting me to say, so I'm going to say this stuff. And I'm going to say this stuff specifically to push Rachel's buttons.
Yeah, it doesn't feel sincere. Like, it doesn't feel like these are, like, genuinely held beliefs. It just sounds like he is saying the things that you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
I struggle with Marco. I adore Marco, and I want to defend him until I die. But, God, he makes it difficult.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really what it's meant to be until you get into the first POV with him.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, it's going to be good. Okay, So they're walking home from doing this. They don't find this Yerk mothership. So Tobias is flying up ahead while the rest walk home because he can't talk to them when they're talking out loud. This is so fucking sad. Like, I really didn't think about it, but if they're talking out loud, he can't, like, talk out loud with them. He's a fucking bird. He's a forever hawk.
Yeah.
So he just, like, kind of goes off on his own. He's just completely left out, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
Really, really, really sad.
Yeah, because the thought speak, like, can go, it has a limit for how far you can do it, but it's still, like, he can fly, you know, he can't fly and hear, and physically, like, hear their words, unless he's, like, flying really low, and that would be sus.
Yeah.
So alone.
so alone. Like the continual othering of Tobias, and some of that being like a self-inflicted othering, is really interesting. They wind up walking past the construction site from book 1 again, and they literally have a PTSD moment. And I can say that because I have diagnosed PTSD. They walk by the construction site and they look at it and they all just like stop and like have flashbacks
Mm-hmm.
and are like, okay. They talk about this last fight that they had at the end of the first book where they didn't save Tom. They got one person out and they made themselves known to Visser 3 as a potential threat. And there's pros and cons here. They just kind of debate that. But then they talk about the next step in their plan, which is they know that assistant principal Chapman, not Chalmers, Chapman is like in charge of the sharing, which is this like Yerky society getting people to join them. So Chapman has a daughter, and the daughter's name is Melissa, and Melissa and Rachel used to be super close. They go to gymnastics practice together. So they want to use Rachel to get close to Melissa to get more information on Chapman. That is our core goal for the group of this book.
Rachel's like, that sounds fucked up.
Yeah, and she's right. Like, I totally get where she's coming from here. It is fucked up.
Welcome to the kids happen to make fucked up decisions.
Right. Well, because like that's what war is, right? A bunch of kids making really fucked up decisions. Like, that's what it is. Man, Rachel is such a powerful character for this POV. Like, that struggle of feeling like it's really fucked up to do this to her friend who for some reason has like kind of fallen out of closeness with Rachel. Like, it is some of the core conflict in this book is Rachel trying to balance doing this thing and really caring about her friend, which we'll get into soon. It's just, I was just really impressed. These books are so good.
Right? Yeah.
They're so good.
They're bringing this up as, this is what we have to do. And Jake says, Rachel, Melissa's father, is one of the main controllers. She's in this whether she likes it or not. I felt a bitter taste in my mouth. Jake was right, of course. Chapman was the logical lead to follow, and Melissa was our way to get close. It made sense. It made sense for me to betray an old friend. It also made me feel like dirt. And that's how the chapter ends. And you're like, fuck!
God. That's this book. That's this whole book.
Yeah, it's great.
Rachel goes to gymnastics, which is where she like primarily knows Melissa.
It's important to be said too that not only did they used to be besties, but they've kind of had just a falling out over the last couple months. Like this is not we were childhood. I mean, they're all children, but like we were childhood friends and we've grew apart. It's like
it's recent.
Something changed.
Yeah.
In Melissa in the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel is also feeling guilty because she's also had her own shit going on and hasn't really noticed it or followed up. So, like, she's also feeling the guilt around, like, not paying attention to the fact that, like, something has changed within her old friend.
Right.
So, like, not only is she feeling the guilt of, like, having to do this, but she already is carrying the guilt of, like, man, this might have been easier if I had actually, like, not been kind of a shitty friend.
Yeah. And the last character we saw who went through a change that made them less close in like the last few months was Tom, because Tom was made into a controller.
Yeah.
So this is setting up like Melissa has become a controller, which Rachel is really, really worried about. She talks to Melissa at this gymnastics meet, tries to get her to be like,
hey girl,
why don't you come to the mall with me? We're friends. And Melissa's like, I'm good. And Rachel gets so stressed out about this all that she just fucks up the whole gymnastics class. She's like falling, she's tripping. And we get, again, more of this tension between her identity and the perception of her is that like, oh, she's tall, she's beautiful, she's graceful. But because of how gymnastics works, she's like too tall to be seen as good enough to continue or like to really take it seriously. She thinks of herself as really clumsy, and she is scared by the concentration required by the balance beam. So yeah, Melissa is acting weird. Rachel's worried that she's a controller, fucks up the whole class, and then she starts walking home alone. She doesn't actually go to the mall. And this is a bad idea because it seems like it's pretty far to get to her house, and that her mom is planning on picking her up from the mall because that's what she said. And then, oy, 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 this dude drives up to her.
And then men.
Straight up, like, drives up to this young teenage girl who, they're like, she's like, what, 14?
Yeah, they're like 13, 14 at the most.
Yes. He drives up to her and he tries to pick her up. And he won't take no for an answer. He is being a huge creep. He is being exactly what you expect. And Rachel, who has had quite enough today, makes a choice.
Oh boy, does she make a choice.
Leigh, I could not fucking believe what I was reading.
I love Rachel so much, and there are so many times in this book that I'm like, fuck it, Rachel,
girl. Think thoughts, please.
Think thoughts in your head for like 3 seconds.
3 seconds. 3 seconds.
She's like, cool. Impulse. She does not have a lot of impulse control.
No, she does not. In fairness, she has so much on her plate. Like, I get it. So she turns into an elephant.
Yep.
Like, side of the road, scaring off some random dude. Elephant. This is such a bad idea. This is such a bad idea.
This book is just lucky break after lucky break, honestly.
Yes.
The amount of times you will find in this series, the amount of times you're like, well, this series would have been over. Yes, well, that series would have been over. Like, if that had been a controller, well.
Yeah, exactly. And like, also, now there is just a random man who like saw this
teenage girl turn
into an elephant.
Not even fully into an elephant, just like,
oh my god, that's right. She like stops halfway through, so it's just like awful Cronenbergian body horror at this man who is like screaming.
What he saw was me halfway through morphing into an African elephant. She says, my arms look like Arnold Schwarzenegger's, only gray.
God.
And my tusk stuck out about a foot out of my mouth. Just to make things extra weird, I still had my normal hair and my normal eyes. Suddenly, the guy wasn't interested in hassling me.
I bet.
And then he just fucking books it.
Yeah, he fucking books it. And because she morphed, or like half morphed, her shoes got busted. So she is now walking home with her busted shoes in her hands, being like, I guess this is my life right now. And like, yeah, it is. You made those choices. I don't blame you, but like, yeah. And then
seconds later,
yes, up rolls in another car Melissa and Chapman, her dad.
Oh.
And I was like, oh God, no, oh God, no. So Rachel knows that Chapman is a controller, like the controller. She thinks that Melissa is probably a controller. And Chapman is like, what are you doing on the side of the road? We should give you a ride home in our car that probably locks, that like you might not be able to leave from. And she's like, it's okay, I'm good. I love walking with my bare feet on the sidewalk. And he's like, no, the fuck you don't. Get into the car. Rachel is like trying to lie her way out of this. Rachel is a terrible liar. It's like, even Chapman is like, what are you doing? Like, this is not working for you. So bad. So she gets in the car. I don't like that. That's so scary. Rachel.
She gets the ride home. And by the way, you know, she's like telling Chapman, like, oh, you can like turn left here. And his response is, I know where you live.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not terrifying at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, hey, thanks for the ride. Hey, Melissa, I was serious. We should totally still hang out.
And then we get a little glimpse into her family. So Rachel's mom and dad are divorced. She mostly stays with her mom. Her mom is a lawyer, and she's like always working because she is a lawyer. Dad is a weather boy. And she's got 2 younger sisters, Jordan and Sarah. And it seems like she, not to therapy speak more, but like it seems like she's pretty parentified.
Mhm.
She has a lot of practical and emotional responsibility over her younger sisters.
Yeah.
Her mom doesn't seem to like cook for the family, which I don't think is an obligation of a mother, to be clear. But like that's a thing that is commented on. It seems like she is just really, really, really submerged in work. So Rachel tells the others about all of this shit with Chapman and Melissa, except she very pointedly does not tell them that she did get into the car with them. She does not think that they would take it well. She thinks that they'd be furious, and they're already furious that she did any of this because they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't morph in front of random people. What are you doing? Marco is especially really pissed.
Which he has a right to be.
Yes, he does. Yes, he really does.
Also, they've started using codes over the phone because anybody could be listening, especially like, if you're calling Jake, right? Tom could be listening. So Rachel calls up Jake and it's like, I want to talk about, hey, let's get together and talk about that new CD we bought.
Right. It's very wild to see people doing that in fiction that is pre-Patriot Act.
Yeah, right?
Like, oh boy, y'all didn't even know it was coming for you.
At least we don't have to worry about Yerks listening in, just the government.
Just the government. And that's so much better. Oy, oy, oy. They talk about what they should do if Melissa is also a controller, because Rachel is like kind of floating that theory that that's what's going on here. They start talking about like how did they get into that house without being observed? What kind of creature can they turn into? They talk about like, can we morph into bugs?
Is that too small?
Right. Like, does that like count? Do they have thoughts? Can they hear? But Rachel remembers that Melissa, for a birthday one year, got a kitten. Their plan is to find that cat and become him to get into the house. I also have a note at the very bottom of this chapter that is just, hey, how the fuck old are they? Which, yes, it's kept very vague.
Preteen to early teen.
Yeah. In my head, Rachel is 14.
I think that's around right.
Cool.
I don't remember their exact ages by the end of the series.
Then we get introduction to Fluffer McKitty, who is Melissa's cat.
Like, that's excellent top tier name. It's very it's very Miss Kitty Fantastico.
Yes. It's really spectacular. As soon as I saw Fluffy McKitty, I was like, yeah, this owns. Fluffer McKitty, though, we gotta talk about this, is an unfixed indoor-outdoor tomcat. Melissa, you are killing the ecosystem. Don't do this. Get your cat fixed. Bring him inside. Oh my God.
It was the 90s. Nobody knew. Indoor-outdoor cats were the thing.
They're trying to lure out Fluffer McKitty to get his DNA. Because again, he's an indoor-outdoor cat, and cats do what they want, iconically. There's like, they all just keep saying shit about Tobias being a hawk, because Tobias brings up like, go get a rat, like morph into a rat, be bait, use that to lure him out. And there's a comment of like, ew, what if you would want to eat a rat? And Tobias is like, yeah, they look good to me. I'm a hawk. Like, what do you want? They're all just being really fucking shitty to him. Like, they're just being so, I guess, inconsiderate, like, to what his life must be like now. They are kids, to be clear. They're kids. It's just,
I think it's them just being so uncomfortable and feeling guilty and not knowing how to deal with that. Yeah. And also, this is the first time where you really see that the person who's really gonna go to bat, like, really ferociously for Tobias is Rachel.
Yes.
She's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and she's so right. The way they treat him is just it's really sad. It's been sad from like the first book, the first page of the first book. Again, just that feeling of alienation and othering for Tobias. Like, it just keeps layers and layers and layers of that alienation keep getting added. It's so sad.
My boy.
Tobias goes and he gets them what they think is a mouse, but it's not. It's a shrew. And Marco is sexist again about this, saying like, "Oh, she's already a shrew."
Right. I love that it's so layered of like
Yeah.
the expectation of like Rachel being like a tall, pretty blonde
Yes.
girl who's like
Yes.
into shoes and fashion in the mall is like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna be a shrew.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so yeah, Rachel's plan is to turn into the shrew so that they can use the shrew to lure out Fluffer McKitty, get Fluffer's DNA, and then come back in as Fluffer. Which means that this, again, unfixed indoor-outdoor tomcat is going to chase Rachel as a prey animal. Cassie is like, you are so stupid. Like, this is not a good plan. Those cats are beasts. They are extremely ferocious hunters. Like, you are not gonna survive this. And Rachel is like, nah, it's fine. Peace out. Morphs into the shrew and then panics immediately.
Mhm.
She is so scared. She is so repulsed. There is this like, I'm just gonna do a control F for the word maggots.
Maggots, scrubs. Rachel, you have to get control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I knew they were right. I even sort of understood what they meant. But the terror was so strong, the urge to survive was so powerful. And at the same time, there were other feelings. Hunger. I smelled nuts. I smelled dead flesh. I even smelled the maggots squirming on the dead flesh. And I wanted them. I know it's too gross, but I wanted to eat those maggots. Yum.
Yum. I didn't like it. It made me scared. It made me grossed out. And I feel for her. She is repulsed and scared and she hates everything. And then Tobias swoops in and just like is so gentle with her.
With his little talons.
With his little talons. Because he saves her, I guess.
Swoops her up.
Yeah. And it's just so sweet. Like, he's being really reassuring with her. He's using a calm voice and saying, you know, hey, you're okay. You're in control. Bring back that control. You're gonna be all right. So she he's reminding her of like school and like what being a human is like.
The boy who is forgetting how to be human is
Yeah.
reminding her that she is a human.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really sweet and really sad. But she succeeds. She gets Fluffers out. Jake and Marco grab him. Thank God Rachel doesn't get eaten. When Rachel turns back into her human form, she has this really, really, really great conversation with Jake, because in the first book, he turned into a lizard and had almost the exact reaction. Because Jake ate, it was a spider, right?
A spider. He ate a spider. Yeah, it was the spider thing, but it was also just that prey brain of like,
Yes.
Panic. Oh,
Panic.
God.
Jake is really vulnerable about it. I was pretty surprised. Jake's got good emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But
But also he is riddled with guilt.
yeah, they have a guilt
He
off.
has an absolute like for a dude who does not want to be the leader at all. He has an absolute savior complex.
Yes. They kind of just go back and forth talking about how guilty they feel about all of this. And they do talk about like how afraid they are of the thought of having to turn into bugs one day. Oh, this conversation happened a little bit after, actually. I missed that night she has a night terror. It was written very well. I was pretty impressed. And she's woken up by her sister, Jordan. And this conversation got me. I was fucking crying.
Oh, Jordan's the best.
So sweet. Jordan, who is, again, Rachel's little sister, wakes her up and asks her if something is happening to her. And is like, if anything is happening to you, you can tell me. If there's something going on, you can tell me. The way that she phrases it, it's like Jordan knows that there is something external to Rachel being inflicted on her
Mhm.
which is really specific and not typically how you see these kinds of like intervention conversations happening. It's
Yeah.
usually like, I know you're going through some stuff, or like, are you feeling a certain way? It's not typically like, is something happening to you? I really liked this. I was crying. It was so sweet. It was so
Yeah.
tender.
And Rachel can't talk to her about
Yeah,
it.
Rachel can't tell her anything. It's awful. And then she throws up because she was having those maggot nightmares. So the next morning is when she has that conversation with Jake about how they both get it. They don't want to turn into bugs. And then she goes to school and she sees Melissa. And she immediately can tell that Melissa has been crying. Rachel talks to her, and Melissa says that she just kind of like breaks down at Rachel. She says that everything is fine and that nothing is fine, and everyone is changing, and she doesn't understand.
Ugh.
So for me, this immediately told me, oh, she is not a controller. She is dealing with the reality of her dad being a controller.
Being a controller. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Afterwards, Rachel is walking around the school. She runs into Chapman and like almost screams. And he's like, the fuck? And she's like, yeah, sorry, I just had nightmares. And he's like, okay, anyway, nightmares aren't real. So like grow up. Which is crazy. It's just like really, like it was so I don't know. It was very much like alien not understanding human shit. It was very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then my last note for that chapter, which is chapter 9, we've already breezed through 9 chapters here, is these books are fucking sad. Like, I'm probably projecting here, lol, but there's such an air of dread and gloom and melancholy.
But they're just the wacky books where people turn into animals on the cover.
They're just the goofy, wacky books. Nothing here, just funny, fun times. Ooh, fight an alien. It's normal. Oh, God.
Yep, this is why I tell everybody, like, read these books.
Yeah, you're so right.
These books. Read these books. It doesn't even ramp up. It's just
no, it just goes.
It just fucking goes.
It's literally the first chapter of the first book, and we are off to the fucking races.
Oh, God.
So that night, she's observing outside of their house. She morphs into Fluffer, and she is like flooded with sensory information. And this is the moment, like, we had it a little bit with the birds in the first chapter where I was like, okay, I totally get the appeal of morphing, because I really haven't, it's not something I ever fantasized about as a kid. I wouldn't choose turning into an animal if I had like a choice of superpower.
Right.
But this got me. It's like all of the senses are so heightened, and like every sense turns everything delicious. Like the way things look is enticing. The way things sound is enticing. The way things feel and the confidence and the ease that she feels in this body is enticing. And everything smells enticing. She can see so well. Like, God, it's so appealing.
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
Rachel is Cat.
Rachel is Cat straight up.
Which is funny considering her battle morph is not the tiger.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that for her. Get a little spice in there. Get a little zest. She senses something above her, and she just, like, straight up attacks. Like, she doesn't think. She just attacks. Which, again, makes sense for a cat. But it's just Tobias, and he is, like, flying in the air. Like, he's, like, up. She can't reach him. Like, yeah. Girl, you're on the ground. But she tries.
He's like, chill out. It's just me. She's like, I'm sorry. You're a bird. Yeah. You're a hawk. You're a bird of prey. And I have a cat.
Yes. She's having a really hard time controlling the cat. And she makes it very clear it's not because she's scared. It's not because she's difficult. It's because this fucking rules. Like, she is living it up. She loves the comfort of it. She loves the confidence of it. And she loves the solitude too, which I thought was really interesting. She compares herself to Clint Eastwood, which I thought was really cute. And like that feels so Rachel. Yeah, I feel like this cool dude from Westerns.
Meanwhile, Marco's like, dude, don't get cocky.
How empowering that must have felt as like a young girl in the 90s.
Right.
You know, like You don't get that. You don't get to have that. That would have been so intoxicating. I never would have morphed back. I would have pulled the Tobias, no question.
Yeah.
So Rachel gets into the house as Fluffer McKitty, and the house is chill as hell. The house is maybe too chill.
Like, this is my shit. This is my place.
She's like, oh, this is my house that I own. Which I fucking love.
I'll pee on that. I'll pee on that.
Yeah.
I'll rub against that.
Everything smells like me. I own this whole domain. It rules. Chapman and his wife are there. They are doing normal things, but not normally. So Chapman is sitting on the couch, and the mom, I think, is like washing dishes. They're not talking. There's no music. There's no TV. There's no humming. There's no like muttering to yourself. They're just sitting there in silence. So Chapman is just sitting on the couch. That's it. TV off. It's so creepy. It's so uncanny. Very, very, very good. And like pretty clearly confirms both Chapman and the mother are controllers.
Yeah.
Melissa, Rachel can tell, is upstairs doing homework, and she's going to go up there. But then Chapman gets up from sitting, and because he has made a quick movement, Rachel is like, my prey! And starts following him.
Doop-a-doop-a-doop.
Okay, so we're about to start discussing chapter 12. This shit goes wild. This shit goes
Shit
wild.
Ramps up.
Chapman goes into his basement. Wait a sec. Basement? This is the East Coast. We don't have basements on the West Coast.
I mean, that is a point.
Yeah.
There's inconsistencies throughout the books, so I wouldn't put too much like emphasis on a detail like that.
Yeah. Man. Where is K.A. Applegate from again?
She's from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, okay. Okay, so she doesn't know shit. Okay. Damn it. Thought I had something. So Chapman gets into the basement. Rachel's following him. And it's like a typical basement rec room, except there are zero signs of recent human life and everything has dust on it and there's no scent. So she follows him through a locked door to a steel door with a panel of white light. Then he, like, I think puts his hand on it, and then he's in a room with a desk and light panels and also just a normal chair. So this is like a cool, crazy, like sci-fi desk. There's light panels all over it. It like looks super futuristic. And then just like a normal ass desk chair.
Right.
I don't know why this is so funny to me, but it's really funny.
Because he's in his like older dude Chapman body. He's got to protect the lumbar.
Yeah. So he pulls up a fucking hologram of Visser 3 right then and there. And again, Rachel has followed him in here. She is not supposed to be in here. He has not noticed her. She is a cat, but like, she's not supposed to be here. So she finds out through this conversation that Chapman is in the shit because Visser 3 told his bosses, the Council of 13, that he killed all of the Andalites. But after this fight with the kids in book 1, he thinks that they're Andalites. He does not think that they are humans with like Andalite powers. He thinks they're straight up Andalites. And so if the fact that there's a group of Andalites here to wreck his shit, if that gets back to the Council of 13, he's fucked. And he's pissed about it.
He is boned.
He's so mad. Okay. So Visser 3 in this book.
Best villain. Best hammy villain.
He kind of baby girl, kind of a poor little meow meow.
He is a pathetic little meow meow, 100%.
Really is
absolutely pathetic little meow meow.
He's so stupid. Like
he's so dumb. He's also so obsessed
annoying
with cats.
Yes.
He sees Rachel in the background and he's like, oh, What a fascinating creature. That's like a tiny version of one of the Andalite bandits morphs in the Yeerk pool. It's got, he like tries to like, you know, take his like Andalite hologram tail and like slice her, and it's a fucking hologram, so it does nothing, and the cat's just like, meow. Wow,
well, the
you know,
cat swipes back.
Rachel fucking
swipes back at it, and it,
right. Rachel fucking keeps her cool. She's like, I can't react. Meow.
Yeah.
What? Bat.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is really charming. You're a fun creature.
He loves it. He's like so delighted. He's like, look at this little beast.
Cat girl Visser. Yeah.
I really was not expecting it because so it starts with him. He sees the cat and he's like, kill that thing. And Chapman is like, no. And then Visser 3 is like, oh, you're right. It's darling.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? He's so ridiculous.
Well, and Chapman's like, I feel like my cover might be blown if my host's daughter's pet suddenly, he like explains pets.
Yeah. He explains pets, and he also explains cats.
Yeah, he explains pets to Visser 3, being like, oh, humans sometimes like to keep small animals in their houses. It's like they're like companions. Because Visser 3 is like, the fuck is that thing? Why is it in the house?
Yeah.
Kill it.
I love that when he's like, this is like the big thing, but small. And Chapman is like, yeah, they're related species.
I love that he puts those two things together. I do love that he puts that together. He's immediately like
job,
blocking, like, ooh.
You did that all on your own.
Slay queen. I love this dumbass.
Yeah, it was really great. I truly was not prepared for that moment, and it was wonderful. So
Visser threatens Chapman.
Yes. Chapman, who the Yeerk in Chapman is named Innis226, which is interesting. And he shows him a huge, awful monster thing sucking a Yeerk out of a controller body and eating it. We will learn that this thing is called a Varnax, aka a Yeerkbane. It is like a huge threat to the Yeerks. And he's saying, like, if you don't fix this for me, if you don't find these fucking Andalites, I will turn into this and I will fucking suck you out of that brain and eat you.
Yeah.
And Chapman is just like, okay, cool. So Visser 3 acquired this DNA just to threaten like his underlings. He ate another one named Innis174, who was an Innis of the 2nd century. No clue what that means, but that is the guy that he ate, I guess. The Yeerk that he ate, I guess. Visser 3 is like really bad at being a leader.
Yeah.
And the whole time, Chapman is like basically being like, Visser 3, get real. What are you talking about? I can't do the things that you're asking me to do because they're stupid and they'll jeopardize everything. What are you talking about? It's really good.
But he is still incredibly terrified.
Yes. More to support my the Yeerk should unionize stance. Yeah, so then Chapman is like, I can't kill the cat because if I kill the cat, then Melissa is going to be really sad and that's going to cause huge issues. And we don't quite get like the depth of that yet, but it's important. Chapman then tells his wife what he saw, and they both just kind of have this like little vent sesh about how bad Visser 3 sucks.
I love that. Like, as soon as your, like, boss goes around the corner, like,
yeah!
Oh my god, it fucking sucks.
This fucking guy. It's awesome. It's so good. Like, they are really just disgruntled workers. It's so funny.
Absolutely.
So Melissa comes downstairs and she asks for help on her homework. And they just, like, put on their, like, good human faces. And they go all Stepford on her. And the mom is like,
you should learn to do it for yourself.
Yeah, they do Bean Dad. They do Bean Dad on her. The way that they're just like, no, figure it out. You can do it. And she's like, okay. So she goes upstairs and Rachel follows. Rachel knows that she should keep watching Chapman and the wife, but she's like, nah, fuck this. So Melissa goes upstairs, goes to her bed, and starts crying. Rachel curls up next to her and purrs. And like she has this like need to purr while Melissa is crying. Like, she needs to comfort her, and she needs to comfort her in this specific way. As somebody who is sad a lot and has cats, this scene also made me cry.
So validating.
Yeah. So Melissa is like, what did I do wrong? Why don't they love me anymore? This scene, both from Rachel's perspective and from Melissa's perspective, like really, really, really hit close to home for me. I said in the last episode that like I wish I had these books growing up, but this book specifically, if I would have had this book growing up, it would have been huge for me. Huge.
Yeah.
And I'm really like I'm like ongoingly frustrated that I didn't get to read them growing up. Ugh, so good. This whole end of this chapter is beautiful. And as Rachel is laying there next to her and seeing the effect that this random change in her parents, because like Melissa doesn't know what's going on.
There was no inciting event.
Right.
It's not like her parents got divorced.
Right.
And then, or were getting divorced, and then, you know, then you blame yourself or whatever. This is just like randomly at some point, boom.
They just like turn off.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing there. And I can't imagine like how confusing and scary and sad that must be to have nothing and then just like a light switch. They're like different people. And she's so young. This is just such a hard age. That's so awful. And Rachel decides that more than anything else, more than for freedom or for justice or because it's the right thing to do, this is why she will destroy the Yerks, because they did this to her friend Melissa and they made somebody feel like this, and she can't fucking deal with that. She hates these Yerks so fucking bad for this, and she is going to destroy them. Which, like,
war crimes.
Yeah. Buckling in for war crimes. I also support her entirely in this endeavor. Chapter 15, the group is planning to meet at a church tower. I don't think that we've been introduced to a church tower yet. I think that's a pretty cool location to have for like this weird sci-fi action adventure.
Right, it's all of us, let's turn into birds and meet up there.
Yeah. If I were a bird, that is where I would go.
It's a nice secret way.
Yeah. So nobody's doing great. Rachel's grades are suffering because she is juggling too much. Marco is really worried he's not spending enough time with his dad. Rachel tells them about what she saw, except she withholds information again. So this is twice in like pretty quick succession that she is telling them half-truths. She's lying by omission because that way she doesn't have to like lie. But she is like very intentionally leaving really important things out of what she's telling the others. So she says that she went and she followed Chapman and she saw Visser 3. She says that, I think she tells them that she was seen, but she didn't tell them that Visser 3 told Chapman to kill her, which he did when she was a cat before he was like, ooh, delightful. So Rachel says that what they should do is find the Kandrona, which is this thing that sends the nutrient beams to the Yerk pools. So her plan is if you destroy that, then the Yerk pool is rendered useless. They can't get nutrients. They need to go to the pool every 3 days. So like they're gonna die probably.
Mm-hmm.
None of them like know what it looks like or like how to do that or anything. Like they don't know what's up. But this is her plan. Cassie and Tobias say that the next time she morphs, that they want someone to go in with her because she like fucked this up and like keeps fucking things up. She doesn't give a shit. She's like, I'm fine. I don't need any help. I'm doing great. I'm doing I'm doing all the work here. Like, let me do my fucking thing. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then Tobias
clocks her immediately.
It's
like, hey, I know you're doing this. I know you're really determined and you're refusing any help with this because you're just like super zero focused in on wanting to help Melissa. And you have to look at this from a larger perspective.
Yeah. They really get each other in a way that I think is very sweet. I also like that he's not judgmental about it. He's not
being judgmental. He's just saying, hey, you might want to like need and want to zoom out a little bit.
Good job, Tobias. They want to go back, try again. It's raining, which Rachel hates. And everybody is being weird. And Jake is quote unquote grounded and not there. Jake does not seem like an eminently groundable child. Speaking as a former eminently groundable child and arguably eminently groundable adult, Rachel doesn't seem to think this is weird, but she's like, okay. So she morphs back into Fluffer McKitty and she makes it back into the house, and Chapman keeps almost noticing her. And then Jake is like, hey, Rachel, what's up? And she's like,
okay. Jake shows up
yeah.
when Rachel is in the secret basement office.
Yes.
Under the desk, yes, and shoving herself further and further into the desk so that Chapman doesn't kick her.
Yeah, that's right. Jake,
and she's like sucking in, and Jake's like, hey Rachel, what's going on? I'm a flea. I can't hear or see anything, but I smell your blood and I love it.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, she's like freaking out, trying not to get caught in this situation where she is fucking up again.
I really did not see this coming. I should have. Of fucking course he did this. Yeah, he morphed into a flea, and he's on her back, and he wants her blood.
I guess he got hold of a flea from what's the dog's name? It's Dude is Tobias's cat. It was Homer. I guess Homer had fleas.
Yes. Every Animorph, except for Cassie, take better care of your animals. My God.
He did leave Homer outside when he was morphing him, so maybe he got some fleas from the outside. I don't know.
Is that how? Yeah, I guess fleas have to come from somewhere. Yeah.
I don't know.
I love that he did this even after their big conversation about like how much they did not want to turn into bugs at any point ever, which is also like weird guilt things for Rachel because Jake is supervising her and he's doing it as a flea because they couldn't even trust her to like let somebody come with her. Like it's a whole fucking ordeal.
Yeah.
But they have other shit to care about right now. So Visser 3's hologram pops back up. He only cares about capturing the Andalites. Chapman is like, again, pushing back against this. And he's like, dude, like their morphs are like tigers and elephants and shit. They seem really advanced. Which is so funny. It's just because they broke into a zoo.
Yeah.
They made such a great first impression. They really did.
Right.
So Chapman is like, what am I supposed to do? Like, can you fucking get real here? But then he knocks into Rachel. And Rachel, being a cat, is like, meow, because like when you kick a cat, don't kick cats. When you accidentally kick a cat just a little tiny bit and then you say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He doesn't do that because he's a controller. But she lets out a big meow. And Visser 3 is like,
okay.
Yeah.
That's a fucking Andalite.
Yeah. Get it.
One is a coincidence. Two is a kill that thing.
So he was right about something, which I think is like a really amazing accomplishment for Visser 3.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Right, exactly. Little does he know there's two here. Oops. So Chapman picks up a fucking Dracon beam gun, which is so intense. I mean, it makes sense because like they know who she is, but like, god damn, he just pulls a gun on her.
Pulls a gun.
Yeah. And they put her into a cage, and Rachel is like, I'm fucked. Like, I'm gonna fucking die here. I'm gonna fucking die here. Which, yeah, Rachel, yeah.
She's trying to figure out, should I still be trying to be a cat?
Right.
The game's up.
But if she morphs back into a human, then Visser 3 is going to know that they're not Andalites, they're humans, and that would fuck them all over, like, tenfold.
Humans have families.
Right. So she has to stay in this form, even though if she morphed back into a person, she could probably break through this cage, but she can't do that. So Visser 3 is like, yeah, bring me that cat thing, and also bring me your stupid daughter. I've been waiting long enough. It's time to yerk her. I'm sick of her getting in the way of my plans. And Chapman is like, that's not the deal we made.
Mm-hmm.
if you yerk Melissa, our host bodies are gonna go fucking ape shit. And then he starts like glitching out.
Yeah.
So we know here that the reason Melissa hasn't been yerked is because the host body of the parents will rebel and will start trying to reject the yerks and will like try to work against them controlling the body, which is a huge problem. Because for smart reasons, Chapman is the assistant principal of a local school. This makes sense in regards to like power and getting access to things, but he can't just be like glitching out and acting crazy.
Yeah.
He'll get fired so fast. They start attacking themselves. The host parents do. And Melissa comes down and sees that her cat is in a cage. And she's like, Daddy, where are you taking Fluffer? What are you doing to him? Can I please have my cat? Chapman's like slapping himself and is exhausting himself. It's a fucking mess.
Yeah. Ugh. God, poor Melissa.
Poor Melissa. Justice for Melissa. Chapman takes Rachel in the cage to the construction site from the first book, and 2 bug fighters and a blade ship are arriving, which is like a lot. Like, that's more or less what they saw in the first book at the first confrontation.
Yeah.
When they were trying to track down and kill Prince Elfingor. So like,
well, it's because it's the blade ship is Visser 3's personal ship. So it's like Visser 3 plus escorts.
Yeah. Yeah. Still, I feel like they're bringing out the big guns. I feel like they really are at least intimidated by this group of Andalites, or what they think are Andalites.
Yeah. Andalite bandits.
Yeah. Bandits. Yeah.
Bandalomorphs.
Bandalomorphs.
Like bandolins. Yeah, no, yeah, you'll hear Visser 3 just become obsessed with the Andalite bandits.
I'm so excited. This fucking goofball. So Rachel is like fully convinced that she's is going to die here because she can't morph, she can't do anything. There's this passage from chapter 19. It says, fear is like a worm inside you. It eats you. It chews your guts. It bores holes in your heart. It makes you feel hollow, empty, alone. Fear. God damn, K.A. Applegate. Yeah, true. Yeah. Jesus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These books go so hard.
So hard. Rachel, she's like, fuck, I'm gonna die here. Well, I might as well enjoy my last moments. I'm gonna be like Jake when he was too sad and decided to just go into the dog brain, and she just goes into the cat brain.
Yeah, just go into cat brain, man.
Starts like grooming herself.
Yeah, and Visser 3 is like, what are you doing?
Like dissociating, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This really is so funny. So Chapman is there and he's like, listen, my host body wants to talk to you directly. And Visser 3 is like, yeah, whatever, sure. Chapman says that he's like, the host body says that he was only willing to get yerked because he made a deal to spare Melissa if he went freely. His wife, meanwhile, was always into it. You know that if this bitch was alive today, she would be in an MLM. Like, she
100%.
She was game. She was like, let's fucking go. And Chapman was like, I don't think that that's good. But they both, like, if Melissa gets taken, the host bodies will riot. And because Chapman is like so high ranking, both in like the sharing and also in the day-to-day culture of normal humans who they're trying to get more of, like, that's going to be a huge issue for Visser 3. And he's already in the shit because he thinks that there are more Andalites running amok. Visser 3 is like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to yerk her. Whatever. Like, we have to take her out. She's an issue. The Chapman body is like struggling to talk and to move. And then this passage is like cool guy writing 101, but it was very effective to me. I thought this was cool as hell. Passage reads, he rose to his knees. Then slowly, he stood up. He was wobbling and swaying, but he was standing. That girl is no threat, he repeated in a stronger, more confident voice. But I am. Cool as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking sick.
Yeah. I really like that how much it humanizes Chapman, because it's like we've
Yeah.
really only seen the perspective of like willing of voluntary hosts from like that group of voluntary hosts that were like sitting around watching TV in the Yerk pool. And it's like, of course there are going to be reasons why people would say, all right, well, if this is what I have to do, you know, like the ways people like make deals with themselves
Yeah.
in order to kind of take the path of least resistance. Yeah, it like it makes absolute sense that like, well, this is going to happen anyway, so rather than just like constantly struggle, if I can try to make something better out of
Yeah.
this. It's not just, you know, it's like we're gonna deal with Chapman and, you know, him being such a huge antagonist.
Yeah.
But like also it's like deeply sad at the core of it of like this is a man who just wanted to protect his child.
Straight up. I really thought that Chapman was gonna be a pretty like 101 stock villain assistant principal character. He is like a whole dude. Like they really, as much time is spent with Melissa here, almost as much time is spent with Chapman and him being like a person. And even like not just Chapman, but Innes, the Innes 1, 2, 3 or whatever.
226. There we go.
This Yerk that's in Chapman also has a whole personality. I didn't think that Yerks had personalities. I thought they were going to be like a typical evil hive mind. That is not the case at all.
You're going to learn what the significance of their names is, too. Like, not to give anything away, but it's not just like, oh, random number, random word.
I keep realizing that I have these, like, expectations for these books that don't have anything to do with the books. They have everything to do with mass media and being around a ton of mass media that just absolutely sucks shit. So, after this absolutely fucking badass mic drop from Chapman being like, I'm the threat, bitch, it's me. Jake is like, hi, Rachel, by the way, I'm still here.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, because he can't see shit. He doesn't
know what the fuck is. He's like,
can
you give me an update? So she's funny. Like, I'm kind of in the middle of something here. Fuck you.
Yeah. I did. I fully forgot that Jake was there.
Yeah.
So they get taken into the Blade ship, which is really, really fucking bad. Marco and Cassie have been alerted to what's going on, and this is all happening at this construction site. And Marco and Cassie are attacking the Blade ship with a fucking earth mover from outside, like a big tractor thing. That's so fucking sick.
Right?
This rules so hard. I loved it. I've always wanted to run into shit with one of those things. This is so cool.
Yeah.
They're living my dream out here. So they're fucking shit up with their big old tractor. But then it gets vaporized. So that's scary. But then they show up with another one. That's so funny. We've got tractors on tractors. Keep shooting. We're gonna do fine.
We're at a construction site.
Yeah, it's so cool.
How convenient.
Way to make use of the setting.
Not only are they, like, using these earth movers, but they're, like, running them into Texans.
Yeah!
Which
they're, like, running things over.
You start to just get the beginning in... I mean, you got a little bit of it in the first book, but you start to get the beginning of just, like, taxon, like, fucking murder of just, like, splat and, like, exploding worms all the time.
It's so gory. It's so gross. And they are fully just committing murders. Their body count is so high by this point.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Jake morphs into a tiger. He starts fighting. Rachel gets out of the cage by half morphing into a human while people are distracted.
Yeah, Jake jumps off of Rachel.
Yeah.
And Rachel's like, Jake, are you still there? Jake, what's going on? He's like, shh, I'm trying to do something. Hold on.
Yeah.
And there he is in the dark corner of this fucking Blade ship. It's like, okay, now it's time. And think about this, too. You cannot go... I don't think they've, like, fully established this yet, you cannot go from one morph to another.
Correct.
So
Which is why Rachel can't just...
Exactly. He has to find a place where he's not going to be seen to go from flea to human boy to tiger.
Yeah. Good job, Jake. In fairness, there's a lot of shit going on. I can't blame them for being really distracted.
Absolutely.
So while people are distracted, so Rachel, from the beginning of the book, when she half morphed into an elephant, she's like, oh wait, yeah, I can do that. So she half morphs into a cat and then morphs so she can like break out of the cage because she's so much bigger. And then she morphs back into a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Super clever. Super clever. And like, if they saw her, they would just think like, well, that's fucked up. Is that a human?
Right.
Maybe. Or it's another fucking alien. Who's to say? Like, it looks fucked up, but she's fine. Morphs back into a cat. And Jake is trying to provide distraction as a tiger, but she is so scared. She can't move. And then here comes Visser 3. And then this shit just kind of like ends. So Visser 3 morphs into some fucked up thing, some other like big Lovecraftian scary shit. They're all fighting. My note here says Marco and Cassie use the Earth Mover to explode a bug fighter and V3 throws a tantrum for real. He really does. He's just like, ah, ooh. He's just pissed. Oh yeah, he says, I'll kill you all. Fools! All caps. Yeah. It's so funny. I love when a villain yells
He's so
fools.
cheesy. He's absolutely cheesy.
He's so cheesy. Visser 3, why are you like this? It's so funny. He's like literally just throwing a fucking tantrum. Rachel can't move, but then she gets picked up, and it's Tobias. And he came in and he saved her. And he's like, can you please, next time you morph into a cat, can it be like less fat, please? It's so heavy. But Rachel's time is like up. Because there's this 2-hour limit, which we haven't even talked about this episode. There's this fucking 2-hour limit that they need to be aware of. And she is at the very end. So he gets her to the trees. They're like in a foresty area. I'm back on thinking this is East Coast. Regardless. He drops her. And then she's
like
lands,
already morphing back as she's dropping.
Yeah, which is so cool. And she lands perfectly, which I thought was a really sweet callback to when she feels like she's not graceful in gymnastics and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So Visser 3 is literally just rampaging as the huge, scary Lovecraftian horror. He's, again, throwing a fucking tantrum. And it seems like everybody's fine.
I love that Tobias about like Visser 3 throwing a tantrum is he's just like such a little sass machine. He's like, I think he's mad we got away.
Yes. So good. And then it's the next morning and like they survived and things are fine. These books end so abruptly. Like that is definitely my main complaint so far is that like everything happens in the last 3 chapters and then everything just like ends and it's resolved and it's fine.
Yeah, well, I think I showed you the memes about like the progression of the books. It's like everything, blah, 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 and then like, and then we played video games, and I did a sick kickflip on my skateboard.
Yeah, straight up.
End. Like,
yeah. We're left with one very sweet, very sad thing, and it's that Rachel has left for Melissa an anonymous note just saying that her dad loves her. This was a good one. I know I've only read 2, but this was a really good one. I really enjoyed this. It was so sad. Hit really close to home. Good themes. I love Rachel. This is great. And
the way that the books end, like they're so abrupt, but it's also very much like I like that it's not nice, tidy endings. I like that it's like, you know, I mean, you put in the notes, right? Like they did okay, kinda. It's each one of these books, you know, we narrowly escaped by the skin of our teeth, blah blah blah, and it's like it gives you that unending thing of like this is just gonna keep going, and going and going, and we're gonna have missions and we're gonna have things that we have to do, and we're just, you know, and they're thinking of it in this way of like we're just fighting the fight until the Andalites come save us, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's not gonna happen.
What makes you think that?
That's not gonna fucking happen. They're all fucking dead. Visser 3 was like, I killed all of them. I don't think there's more out there. I think they're fucked. That is maybe my big prediction of this episode. There is no
I was
one
gonna ask you.
to help
we
them.
were gonna do our predictions.
Yes.
What? So now that you're in book 2, what are some of your predictions for what you think will happen?
Yeah, I think that, again, I don't think that they're getting any help. I don't think there's any other Andalites out there. I think they're fucked. I think that the next book is gonna break me because it's the Tobias book. I think that we will see in the next book somebody get a new morph that is like cool. Something more exciting than a lizard or a cat or a shrew or a flea. I think we'll get one that's like fun for somebody. I think we'll probably have more conflict between Tobias and Marco specifically. Very curious about the role that Jake is going to play in the Tobias book. But overall, for other like big plot things, I think we're definitely gonna see Tobias like having a pretty big crush on Rachel in his POV. I think that I want to see Cassie snap a little. I hope we get to see Cassie snap a little. And I think that Visser 3 is going to ramp up his efforts because I think that word is going to get back to somebody, or like rumors are going to start that he's in the shit. I think that the workers are going to start talking about their shitty boss.
The Yeerks are going to unionize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think the trajectory of the Yeerks will be?
Oh, good
or
God.
Your experience with the Yeerks will be?
I definitely do think that the Yeerks are maybe gonna like do some of the heavy lifting in taking care of Visser 3. They seem extremely ill content with his leadership. It seems like Innis 226 is already like a better fit for like understanding how to navigate this world. I would not be shocked if we see a Yeerk uprising against Visser 3 specifically, but not necessarily against like these kids and taking over the world. And I wonder if we'll see some like conflict about the kids like getting along with some of these Yeerks in all of this and feeling like they don't know what to do about that. Ooh. Ooh.
Do you think we will meet any other types of aliens?
We better. We've got it, right? Like, first off, I think that we're going to see more like Lovecraftian abominations. I don't think that they only have on their side the taxons and the Hork-Bajir. I think that they've done more than that. I wonder if we're going to see any aliens like around like the Yeerkpool city area who are not themselves Yeerked, but are like ambassadors or otherwise like intergalactic politically involved with the Yeerks. I could see something like that happening because I think that there's a lot more in that regard because this is a war. This isn't just like it seems like there's politically a lot at stake here in like a you know, interplanetary way.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you ready for our next section?
Ooh, yes.
It's time for Nowvermorphs. Right now, if you were to turn into an animal right now, what would it be?
My brain just turned the fuck off.
I think I've got mine. Want me to go?
Yeah.
Thinking back about that first chapter, I would be a raven right now. Ravens are the pigeons of my college town.
Editing Will here. I forgot to mention never morphed, like never more, like the quote the raven, like the raven. I think that canonically that would have to be my like main morph for this show is a raven, and yet I forgot about that and I just completely just talked about how much I like them.
There are ravens everywhere, and they're huge, and they're so cute, and they're so funny, and they're so smart, and they can fly around, and they look goth as hell, and I love them. And I want to ride the fucking thermals.
I think last episode I said that I would like to turn into an owl, right?
Mhm.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, still, like, if I could turn into a bird, I would like to turn into an owl.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, after seeing Rachel's like confidence with being the
Oh,
cat,
yeah.
I kind of want to be a cat. I would love to
Oh,
be,
yeah.
but like a jungle cat. I think I'd like to turn
Ooh.
into like a jaguar and like
Ooh.
climb up on trees.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
That'd be cool.
Oh, I could fuck with some ocelot time, man.
Yeah. Or like a
Ooh.
mountain lion and just, you know, you talked about mountain lions and just like
Yeah.
sunning myself on a rock and like this, like just up on, you know, like a crag.
Yeah. That is what they do.
That's what they do. That's what they be doing.
Yes. That sounds
Yeah.
so cozy. Well, Leigh, thank you for joining me on this second episode. It's been lovely to have you here for these first two. I am sure you will be back.
I better be.
Yeah. We've got so much to talk about. And until next time, spay and neuter your fucking cats. Nevermorphed is hosted, edited, and produced by Will Williams. Our theme music is The Chase by Joey Hendricks. Our title is by Eddie Feely, and this podcast would not exist without Mike Schubert's podcast, Potterless and the Newest Olympian. You can find his works at shub.es, that's shub.es. Nevermorphed is a proud member of Hug House Productions. You can find more at hughouse.productions and follow us on Tumblr at Nevermorphed. Get morphin'!
On March 27th, 2024, Elon Musk was deposed in a libel lawsuit filed by Ben Brody. Musk's lawyer, Alex Spiro, tried to retroactively mark the deposition as confidential, but it wasn't.
Of course I can ask him, do you think you committed actual malice? Do you think you were reckless? Of course I can ask those questions.
The deposition is a new Hug House podcast reenactment of the entire deposition, word by word, in full, taken very seriously.
Things that he did wrong.
But that's the point. That's not what you're allowed.
Until he really just can't anymore.
Not what you're allowed to do in the deposition. You can't just get him talking.
The deposition drops on the 4th of July, 2024, with 4 weekly episodes. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice or find us at hughouse.productions today.